Hello! I'm very excited. Hi, everybody! I feel I need to be a little taller, though. My chair's a little on the short side. Hi, you guys. How are you? We're going to get started in a few minutes, but I figured say hey, let everyone gather, make sure you can hear me, make sure you can see me if you're watching. There is a chat. If you're on a desktop, you will be able to see the chat feature, and I would love to engage with you. So if you're on a phone or an iPad or something, it may be a little bit difficult to find it. And if you can't, no big deal. There'll be plenty for you to do, even if you can't chat with me. But if you can, I would love you to say hi and just make sure you guys can hear me and see me. Oh, wait, I don't think you can actually hear me. Hold on. Definitely let me know if you can hear me or not. I think everything is good. Technology. Okay, thanks, Carolina. Just making sure. If there is somewhere for you, this is possible to check down. Okay, perfect. Thanks, Eve. You can also double check if you're on your phone or an iPad or a device. At the very bottom, there might be like a chat bar, and that is where you can contribute to the chat, and I can see you guys, or I can see what you're typing at least. Okay, perfect. Thanks, Lydia. Okay, so we're going to get started then. Yes, I think I did this right. This is very exciting for me. Okay, so welcome to today's workshop on 3 practices to end emotional eating from me, Christine, a recovered binge eater, something I will get into detail with in just a few minutes. So let me introduce myself. Hi. Some of you know me, some of you do not. It's our first introduction. So, hi, my name is Christine Cohen. I am a New York City-based registered dietitian and fitness specialist. I've been doing this for over 10 years in different capacities, working one-on-one with people, working as a group fitness instructor, working with nutrition clients one-on-one, as well as in groups, covering everything from weight loss to functional nutrition, to gut health imbalances, hormonal imbalances, autoimmune conditions, and of course, specifically dealing with how nutrition impacts depression, mental health, anxiety, and where food, emotional eating, binge eating come into play with that. Okay, so I actually personally struggled with depression, anxiety, and binge eating over the last 10 years. And it's only been in the last 4 to 5 years that I have felt truly recovered from binge eating and depression. Anxiety is something that still comes up for me, but I have created incredible tools that work well so that it is not a daily fight every single day. Just a fun fact about me, and I will get into more detail about that. Don't worry, it's coming. But my favorite food, depending on the day, is pizza. We actually made homemade pizza last night in the oven here. I'm at my sister's house during this time, and it came out like the best that we've made it. We've been making it every single Friday. And then on Sundays, it's cupcakes. And the activity that I love the most, I love doing all different sorts of movement, but the thing that I love that lights my heart on fire and gets my soul just alive is salsa dancing. And if anyone's a salsa dancer here, definitely let me know, because I have a really good hookup for you in terms of dancing online, at home, and I need to tell everybody about it. So this is your opportunity to introduce yourself. Please say hi in the chat. This is where we are going to engage, and it makes it just that much more fun if we're all kind of talking and having this conversation together. So please introduce yourself, and where are you from? What is your favorite thing to do on the weekend? Just a fun little topic of conversation. In the meantime, turn off your phone. Just turn off any distractions. Close other tabs. And grab a pen and a paper, because there's going to be lots of good note taking. So if you are here, you know you're in the right place. If you have found yourself elbow deep in a snack bag and suddenly you realize the whole thing is gone. You finished the whole thing. And please tell me in the chat, do you think about food all of the time? Is that something that pops up for you? Almost every day you wake up thinking about, what am I going to eat next? What did I just eat last? How much longer until I can have my next meal again? Maybe you've woken up swollen, feeling lethargic, puffy, in pain from the amount of food that you ate the night before, and your first thought is, how much did I do? How much did I do last night? Like, how much food did I eat last night? How much damage did I do? What am I going to have to deal with today? Also, you're in the right place if you feel like you're addicted to food, or you've ever used the food like, I'm addicted to sugar. You've ever used that phrase before. And especially if there are certain foods that you feel like trigger you, that you cannot stop eating. Once you start them, you cannot stop. You just keep going. And maybe then it just opens up a binge and you just move on to whatever's next that you can see in the kitchen. So I'm getting a lot of engagement, which is awesome. We have Danielle from Silicon Valley. She loves to go thrifting, going to the beach, getting outside. TJ Maxx, heartbroken that they're not open during this time. Eve from Portland, Maine. Oh, I've always wanted to go there. I heard it's beautiful. She loves running, going on city adventures. Yes, of course, unless in a different time. Carolina's from New York. She's a fitness specialist. I actually know her. We work in the same fitness facility in New York City together. She loves going for long walks and running outside, traveling, yeah. So now we're getting into some of the nitty-gritty of this conversation. Danny, I ate almost a pint last night when I was actually tired enough to go to bed, and then all the guilt set in last night and this morning. I'm really glad you said that, because I'm going to get into that combination in a hot second. Yes. So you know you're in the right place if any of these things kind of touch chord with you. I'm going to keep going. So does this sound like you? Tell me in the chat. Keep talking to me, you guys. I know there's a little bit of a delay, so tell me in the chat if this is you, that you want to be able to stop the cycle of being good and bad with food without that overhanging fear of gaining weight. Do you just wish you could handle the ups and downs of life without going to food every time things get stressful, or you get anxiety, or something just makes you sad or makes you angry or whatever? And then this is a big one. Tell me in the chat if what you really want is to stop missing moments of your life because you are so controlled by food. For example, you avoid baking cookies or cake or whatever, baked goods with your kids or your grandkids because you are so terrified that you will just eat the entire thing. And so you avoid creating that memory with them. Or you're too self-conscious about your body to be able to do fill in the blank that you've always dreamed of doing, you've always wanted to do, but you keep telling yourself, when I'm in shape, when I stop this behavior, when I stop overeating on food, when I finally look a certain way or fit into a certain dress size or pant size. What about this one? You're afraid you'll ruin your diet if you go to that restaurant or if you have a bite of that food. You know from your history that you will just go off track completely if you go there or you have that one thing. Or you overeat to the point where you're sick and so you actually cancel plans because you're too sick to your stomach from overeating to go out. And then this one hits home with me hard. I would rather stay in some nights and snack than go out and embrace life when I was in the depths of my binge eating. Stop the cycle. Yes. I ate 2 mini cinnamon rolls and regretted it, tried telling myself it's okay, but I still regretted it. Yes. Guilt and shame follow overeating, whatever you want to call it, emotional eating, binge eating, mindless eating, often. And that actually is a huge part of what keeps us in the cycle, is that emotional guilt, shame response afterwards. I miss being able to freely eat food without attaching it to numbers. Yeah, how often do we attach it to numbers on a scale or tracking macronutrients or calories, and we just cannot stop analyzing the numbers. And we control what we eat because we can't go over a certain number. So I want you to take a moment and imagine what it would be like to not fear like a quote-unquote bad day will set you off down an overeating food frenzy. Or imagine what it would be like to have your mind free from thoughts of food so you can discover and enjoy what makes you come alive. Can you picture that the amount of time, the amount of percentage that thoughts about food take up in hours of the day are hours that you are not thinking about what you love, what makes you come alive, what hobbies you could be doing, how to be creative, how to get more present, how to spend more time or more quality time with your partner, your family, your kids, your sister, your best friends, whoever. That's time lost. Those are moments lost because your thoughts are so consumed with what you ate, feeling bad about what you ate, what you should eat. Imagine what it would be like to wake up every morning feeling alive, feeling vibrant, feeling excited about the day. Or imagine enjoying any food without fearing it will trigger you to overeat. That's a hard one, right? Like that's actually hard to imagine, I'm sure. I feel that way. I felt that way. And imagine eating a meal, enjoying it, and then just moving on without your day. This was so tough for me to wrap my mind around because I would eat a meal and immediately I would feel excited and then I would feel down because it was over. And the next time I could look forward to something was only the next meal I was going to eat. That's how tied my emotions were to food. Lydia says, I hate constantly thinking about eating all day long. It takes up so much time and it is exhausting. I hate eating sometimes because I get the worst anxiety from eating. Yes. I've done a 45-minute walk and 3 dance classes this morning to compensate for what you ate than the day before. Yes, punishing ourselves with movement or exercise is something that we unfortunately have learned as a way to make up for. And I'm going to show you guys how that is contributing to keeping you stuck in this cycle. It feels counterintuitive, but it's actually keeping you stuck. So this is what we're going to learn today. We're going to learn why you feel out of control around food sometimes. We're going to learn one method that you can use to ground yourself when you start to feel those anxious urges starting to come up. We're going to talk about one big misconception about overeating that I didn't fully understand until it clicked for me. We're going to also learn what we have not learned about food in our body. We think that we know it all. We think that we know, everything there is to know about nutrition and calories and food and how to control it in the times that we feel like we can control it. But there are key things that we have not been taught about food in our body. And we're also going to talk about why doing it wrong is actually right. And I know that's confusing, so something good to look forward to when we get to that point. All right, so I'm going to share a little bit about me for a hot second. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want you to understand that I have been in your shoes. I completely get it. And I just want us to all be on the same page, if that makes sense. So back around 2011, I got my dream job right out of college as a registered dietitian and personal trainer in this big, beautiful health club. I had all of this exciting stuff at my fingertips, and I just jumped right in because that's all I knew how to do. Overachiever, perfectionist, have to do it right sort of mentality. And I took on way more than I knew how to handle. So only a few months into this new job, I started to experience weird things. Also, let me back up a little bit. So even before this, throughout college and in my very early 20s, I just loved fitness. I loved exercising. I loved running. It was very easy for me to just go and work out, and I didn't give it a second thought. I also enjoyed eating foods that were healthy, and what I thought was a healthy way of looking at foods. Meanwhile, I was actually doing a lot of restricting back then and didn't even realize it. So fast forward to me getting this new job, and all of a sudden I was burning the candle at both ends. I was completely burnt out, a combination of work burnout plus a immediate family mental health crisis involving like my immediate family. Kind of spontaneously happened, and my home life felt really unsafe and really scary and really insecure, or insecure, I guess I should say. And I stopped taking care of myself completely. I just felt like I had no energy to move. I had no energy to exercise. It was something I couldn't even fathom doing because I had so much on my plate that I was exhausted all the time, all day, no matter how much sleep I got. So I wasn't taking care of myself. My cravings for foods went out the window. I couldn't stop craving carbs. I was eating sugar left and right. I was eating foods all the time that I never, ever even thought that I would like. And I just thought I lost all this willpower that I had down, that used to be so easy for me. So I didn't really know what was going on. In hindsight, I was experiencing depression, I was experiencing binge eating, I was experiencing anxiety. But during that time, I just thought I had no self-control and I had no willpower in my workouts. I had no willpower with what foods I was eating. I felt ashamed every single day. I felt guilty. I felt like a failure because I was this personal trainer and dietitian who couldn't even keep her own SISHIT together, and I was supposed to help other people. So going to work every single day felt just exhausting because I just felt like a fraud. I didn't want to go out with my friends. I canceled plans all the time to stay home and eat, and most of the time I just wanted to crawl under the covers and sleep. So in a matter of a few months, I gained 30 pounds and could not see an end to my overeating in sight. So these are some of the things that I struggled with. For sure, binge eating. And for me, that looked like fantasizing about food all the time, that I would just go out after work and immediately go to the store, buy it, go home, sit on the couch, and just devour until I fell asleep at night. I would say no to events. I would go to certain parties and I would say no to the food at those parties only to go home and binge eat what was in my cabinets in secret. I was also sneaking food or eating my roommate's food without them knowing. So all of my behaviors were extremely shame-filled, and I wasn't even just hiding it from other people. I was hiding it from myself. I remember I would eat food so fast that it was like I was trying to ignore the fact that I was even, not acknowledge the fact that I was even doing it. I would binge eat at night. That was when my cravings and urges became extremely heightened. Other things I was struggling with were functioning depression and anxiety. So I was able to go to work and do the bare minimum, but I was exhausted. I felt like I was dragging through the day, all day, every day. My moods were extremely low. The only time that I felt like my moods spiked was around the time that I could picture eating food later, or the next meal I was going to have, or sitting on my couch, numbing out to food, watching something mindless on TV, and just kind of zoning out. I was definitely burnt out, and I had no tools to manage all this stress, all these emotions that were coming up from work and from my family and from all the trauma I was going through. I felt super overwhelmed, and I just felt like I was failing. I just didn't know that I could do something that could help me. I was too ashamed to even tell anybody about any of this. Another big one was I didn't follow through on what I said I was going to do for myself. So I would make all these rules. I would say I'm going to start at the gym tomorrow. There were a million tomorrows. There were a million Mondays, and I just never followed through. My self-integrity was at an all-time low. So another thing that I recognized during this time is I was in survival mode. I was just trying to survive, and I didn't know how to thrive. Yes, imposter syndrome. So this is a turning point where I finally began to realize that this was deeper than just weight and food. This was deeper than just the surface level calories. This was deeper than just my clothing size. This was deeper than what the scale said. This was deeper than the sugar and the types of food and the dieting and the meal plans. This was deeper than all of that. I realized this wasn't really about food at all, and I was desperately grabbing the lowest hanging fruit, which is all I knew. All I knew was calories in, calories out, dieting down, work out more. If I can't stick to it, then I must be doing something wrong. Like I must be failing. I'm not good enough. I don't have the willpower. I don't have the motivation. So before I get to the next slide, the biggest thing that transformed me realizing that this was not really about food at its deepest point is that somehow I got myself to a hot yoga class one day, just a day where I felt probably a little bit lighter, like mentally lighter. And I got myself to this hot yoga class. It was a solid hour and a half, Bikram, hot yoga. I'm still friends with that teacher because I remember how impactful her class was. And I left that class, got into my car, I sat down, and I started to feel like an overwhelming emotion of gratitude and grief, like at the same time. Gratitude because I was feeling happy, I was feeling connected, I was feeling hopeful for the first time in months. Like, wow, I actually feel like myself after I took that class. I feel like maybe there is a light at the end of this tunnel. Maybe I won't feel like this darkness, this hopeless, this sadness, this overwhelmingness forever. And also grief that I felt like I was losing so much of my time, like because I was stuck in, I like to call it this deep dark well. Stuck down in this deep dark well and losing time because I could not find a way out. After that class, it was the first time I realized that movement can have an impact on your mood. That movement can have an impact on how good you can potentially feel. And it was more than just a calorie burn. It was more than just me trying to burn off what I ate the night before. It was me doing something for myself so that I could feel a little bit better that day, a little bit lighter that day. I could have a little bit more potential to feel my very best. And I could use that to help heal myself from the depression, from the anxiety, and of course from the binge eating habits. So it was that point that I vowed to use movement as my sort of antidepressant to get myself to the next step. And I connected how my binge eating, which I'll get to in a second, was so related to my emotions. It was so related to how I was showing up every single day. And if I wanted to end my battle with emotional eating, if I wanted to finally overcome this like binge eating issue that I had, that I would have to go deeper than just food and weight. I would have to go deeper into what it was that I was really trying to fill with all of this food, whatever void I was trying to fill with all of this food, and really find what my soul was craving. So that was a huge step for me. All right, so enough about me. Tell me in the chat if any of that connects to you. If any of that connects to what you get, what you experience, and tell me in the chat what it would feel like for you to stop missing moments of your life. If you weren't using food to disconnect from the moment, what might you be able to fully be present for? Yes, eating in secret is the worst. I struggled with that a lot as a child. I would hide wrappers under my bed all the time. Yeah, I used to do that with chocolate. I didn't even know. I don't know where I learned that from, but yes. And then as an adult, I would do it. I'm full and think of next time or the dessert. Even when I'm full, I get so angry if I don't work out, so I eat less the next day. Yeah, we're always trying to punish or make up for it. All right, so where do we start? So grab a pen, grab some paper. We're about to get to the good stuff, you guys. Okay. Survival mode. Has anyone heard of survival mode before? You are stuck in survival mode if you are thinking about food all of the time. You have compulsivity around food, like you have this urgency to eat, like you gotta have it now. Like the food is screaming at me from the cabinet. I can't focus on anything else. You're in survival mode if you're overeating at meals. You're in survival mode when you eat a full meal and you maybe feel full, but you don't feel satisfied. Like you need to eat more to get that mental satisfaction. You are stuck in survival mode if you have this all or nothing thinking or belief about food, like I'm on the wagon, I'm off the wagon, I'll start on Monday, I gotta cut out foods completely in order to be good. And once you start eating a trigger food, we all have certain foods that trigger us to overdo it. Mine used to be peanut butter. I would eat an entire jar of peanut butter in one sitting. Once you start eating a certain trigger food, you can't stop. If you have a little, you always need a little bit more, and then you just give in and eat until you feel completely sick and overly full. So what is survival mode? Survival mode, first and foremost, is actually a physiological thing. I'm sure you've all heard of the fight, flight, or freeze mode that happens when we are in a state of fear, right? Or a state of anxiety. And you hear the time and time again example, like, I don't like to use the saber-toothed tiger example because I just feel like that's not relatable, but it's the feeling that may happen when you're driving in your car and you see something run out in front of the car and you slam on the brakes and you feel your heart rate jump up and you feel your blood pressure rise and all of a sudden you're breathing a little bit more intense and you start sweating, right? That is fight or flight mode. And that is your survival instincts kicking in because all of a sudden you need to react in the moment. So it is very hormone driven, and also the brain plays a role in this too. Now, survival mode is great. It helps us in so many instances protect ourselves from being injured or to help keep us alive. So survival mode is good. The problem becomes when we live in a chronic state of survival mode. Then things start to break down a little bit because we're not meant to live in survival mode all the time. But because of different things come up, such as a major pandemic crisis, that's a big one, but in other times, just chronic work stress or family life balance or taking care of your kids, not sleeping enough or not getting quality sleep, chronic dieting, so restricting food, trauma, anything in your life that is stressful on the really, really deep level, like mental illness, or on something that is a little bit less intense. Stress is stress. Chronic working out can also contribute and exacerbate survival mode and keep you there. So there's two parts of your brain that get affected when we're in survival mode. One increases and the other decreases. So the one that increases is a part of your brain that's the primal part of our brain. So it becomes super hyperactive when we're in survival mode because the only job that your body now has is keep my human alive. So it even can turn on like this autopilot where it's thinking, your body and the brain are thinking, we are not safe. We are in some sort of scarcity. So food is scarce. We need to protect the asset, protect my human. We need food to survive. We need to store energy. We need to keep them hypervigilant. And in binge eating, or any other type of addiction for that matter, this can feel like all of a sudden you go on autopilot and it's like somebody else is running the show. If you'd ever felt like this, like it's like a switch flips. I used to refer to it as like, I feel like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, where some days I feel, or even some moments, I feel very grounded. I say, okay, this is what I'm going to do today. And then the next, all that goes out the window and all I can think or focus on is that food and sitting and numbing out to it, and just, I can't stop myself once it's in motion. It's like, once that switch has flipped, the whole process has to happen before I can wake up to it and feel like myself again. So it's very important to know that when this primal brain is activated, you aren't yourself. This is another primal part of you, but it is not the like executive who is you, your true you, the one that's grounded, the one that is your full and most beautiful person. That is not that version of you. So the other part of the brain that starts to decrease in activity when we're in survival mode is right up here in your prefrontal cortex. And this is, like I said, executive function. They are like the parent part of your brain. So they are helping you make good decisions, and they are telling you like, that's probably not a great idea, honey. You shouldn't maybe, try and stick your finger into the fire. You might get burned, maybe pull out. So that is the part of your brain that is a little bit more of your personality, okay? So that actually starts to decrease in function. So going back to those questions of if you're in survival mode or not. So just to refresh, thinking about food all the time, compulsive around food, overeating at meals. This is your brain on survival mode. I'm going to have you guys do an exercise really quick. So being in survival mode and restricting food in the times where we feel like we need to make up for the foods that we ate, and then having that then trigger us at some point in the future into overeating or overdoing it, is just like being underwater, not being able to take a breath. So to give you an example, we're just going to take a really deep breath in and hold it as long as we can. And we're going to see what happens. So let's take a deep breath in together and hold it. And it's getting uncomfortable, and I feel like I need to breathe. And I can't hold it anymore. So what just happened? We restricted our oxygen so much. We restricted that our body overcompensated and needed to take an even deeper inhale to make up for all that oxygen that it was just being deprived of. And that is a huge example of what happens when we restrict food and then find ourselves binge eating later. We actually exacerbate survival mode because we're restricting that energy. Food is fuel. We're restricting that fuel. We're restricting that energy that our body needs to function, that life-giving fuel. And so when we can finally take a breath, when we can't restrict anymore, we overdo it because our body's like, must get food, must get energy, keep human alive. Does that resonate with you guys? Tell me, give me a little type in the chat if that makes sense to you. All right, so we're going to get into the first part of the workshop where we are talking about the actions that you are going to use to help you from this point forward. All right, so the first one is self-awareness, and I'm going to get right into this. So has anyone read the book The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg? It's an amazing book. I highly recommend it. And inside of the book, he talks about something called the habit loop, which is the foundation of why we do what we do, the foundation of our habits. Habits are actually 85 to 90% of what we do every day, from what we act upon, what we say, what we think, is a lot of habits that we have just become so automated to do. Now, we can have habits that serve us and create our highest version of ourselves, and we can also have habits, as we all know, that are not so great for us, right? And those are the ones that we're going to be talking about today, the habits that we want to break. So this goes as low as, let's just give a random example of like wanting to start a makeup routine every day, or wanting to like do a skincare routine. So what's going to trigger you to start doing that, to as deep as full-on addictions. They're all a form of habit. So habits are made up of three things. The first is the trigger. So you see that right here on number 1. The trigger is the cue that's going to signal us to start the routine. The routine is the habit. The trigger then cues the action, right? The action, the habit itself, whatever it is, good, bad. And then after the action, we get a reward. It's positive feedback, and eventually we start to crave this positive feedback. Now, the thing is, with bad habits or habits that aren't really working for us, we also get rewards. It's the thing that keeps us going back to the cigarette. It's the thing that keeps us going back to the overeating, the quote-unquote sugar addiction, or feeling like you can't stop the overeating habits, even though you may logically know that this is not so great for you. This is something that's hurting you more than helping you. So we're going to start with self-awareness. Now, the thing is, the only thing that we really have control over is the action, is the habit itself. We have a little bit of control over the reward, and we can maybe tweak and manipulate what we do to give us that same reward. But the thing that we can't change is the trigger, because life is full of triggers. And so whether your trigger is the smell of baked cookies, or your trigger is having a hard day at work, we can't really change that. But we can study it, and we can learn more about ourselves so that we can be more prepared when those triggers arise. Yes, I will be providing a copy, and if you click the download the worksheet button under the video, I think it's there, you'll be able to get this, and if not, I will make sure I email it to you guys. Okay, but definitely write these down. So there are 5 triggers that trigger every single habit that we have. Location, time of day, emotion, a certain person, or an immediately preceding event. So an example of a location might be the house you grew up in. An example of a time of day would be like that 3 p.m. time, in the middle of the work day, and you feel tired all of a sudden, and you're like, gotta have my chocolate. An emotion, angry, sad, happy, excited, frustrated, anything. A certain person or personality, so this could be like, this used to happen to me love her, but when my mom would call, I would get super anxious because I didn't know what she was going to say. So every time she called, it would trigger this feeling of anxiety, and then I would dismiss the call and talk to her later. Love her. This was earlier in our relationship. Or a certain personality type can also be a trigger for us. So if you think about like I'm just trying to think, maybe like your boss triggers a certain feeling for you. And then the other thing is an immediately preceding event. So this could be like right after you pull your car into the garage at home. This could be right after you have a meeting with your supervisor, something like that. So what we're going to do is take 3 minutes to journal as many triggers, as many cues as you can think of right now that trigger you to eat, whatever type of eating that is. That could just be having a meal that you feel is nourishing and wholesome and healthy, or it could be an overeating episode. So as you start to jot your own triggers down, I'm going to encourage you to share anything that you feel comfortable sharing in the chat. So I'll read them as they come up. For me, going to my parents' house was a huge trigger. Another trigger was weekends. Plain and simple. Weekends were a trigger for me. It was a lot more time that I had without a distraction, and binge eating was always worse for me on weekends. Time of day, evening was a big trigger for me, or just coming home after work. As soon as I walked in the door, I looked for something immediately to eat, and that would just start a overeating spiral. Any emotion that felt uncomfortable for me, so personally that was frustration, that was dis-ease, that was a situation I didn't feel confident handling. What else? Feeling like I wasn't enough, I wasn't smart enough for a situation, different things like that. So any uncomfortable emotion. Oh, I forgot who said it in the beginning, but she mentioned feeling tired and having that trigger wanting to eat something. So there's both a biological component to that and a psychological component. When we're tired, yeah, our blood sugar is actually low and our body's telling us, hey, human, you need to eat something so we can perk up a little bit. We need a little bit more energy. We're running low. So we look for something that has more carbs in it, is sweeter, because that's going to raise our blood sugar the fastest. But psychologically, we can somehow miscommunicate, and somehow tired suddenly means hungry. So every time we feel a little tired, all of a sudden we're like, food. And it took me a second to even realize that I was tired. I was actually feeling tired, and my body was craving a nap, and it wasn't craving cereal, and it wasn't craving cake, and it wasn't craving cookies or ice cream. So some of your triggers are waiting too long to eat. So too much time between meals. Yep. I guess I would consider that like a preceding event. Being tired. Yep. Trying to avoid feelings. Yes. All three. So this is one of the practices that I use to help me bring awareness to my triggers, the things that were triggering me to have these binge eating episodes. And I wrote all of my triggers down that I could think of in a list. And I actually looked at this list every single day in order to help connect that if a bunch of them were happening in one day or in a short period of time, like as if they were compounded, I was more likely to have an overeating episode or a binge eating episode that day, because it was almost like as I was getting out of survival mode, I could only handle a certain amount of triggers before I would just tip over into full-on autopilot. So I would keep track of my triggers, and if there was something that I could do to help alleviate or not pile on another trigger that day, or that I saw was coming in the future in the next couple of days, I would do some self-care. I would add some things in that would help balance out the stress that I would probably be experiencing, having all of those triggers compound. So a few of you are saying conflicts at home, especially with the spouse. Yep. Being anxious definitely increases my cravings for sugar. Yes, and that is directly tied. That is that survival mode. So part of it is your brain just on overload, and the other part of it is your body thinking it needs fuel because that is the fastest form of energy. In the morning, wondering how I'm going to get it all done. That is a super overwhelming place to start the day, for sure. And at night, did I get enough done? So that feeling of never being enough, never doing enough, not getting enough done, how am I going to get it all done? So overwhelming. We already pile on all of the triggers, all of the cues, getting ourselves into survival mode before the day even begins. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one because I have a lot of good stuff to talk about. And I don't want to take up too much of your time today. So the second practice that I use to help stop emotional eating is something we do every day, but unfortunately we don't do it well. And that is breathing. So taking a breath, then taking another, doing it again, and keep doing it until I feel that tight, anxious energy that I can't quite put my finger on but feels very uncomfortable, until I feel that release and shift. So we're actually going to practice an amazing breathwork technique together. And I'm going to have you, I would like you to write this down on your notes, but I will be sending this information to you, so I'd rather you do the practice than write it down. So we're going to do the 1 to 2 breathwork practice. So what this looks like is we're going to inhale for 2 seconds, and then we're going to exhale for the double amount of time, so 4 seconds. And then we're going to increase that to 3 on the inhale and 6 seconds on the exhale. And then once that feels comfortable and natural, we would increase it to inhaling for 4 seconds and exhaling for 6. So we're always exhaling double the time for the inhale. So we're going to do a couple of breaths together. So I'd like you guys to just kind of like shake out your body, close your eyes, put one hand over your chest, one hand over your belly. And we're going to focus on taking deep breaths into our belly. So we're taking diaphragmatic breaths, which means we're breathing into our diaphragm. It's the lower part. So we're taking deep, juicy inhales. We're going to go for 2 seconds in through the nose. And you're going to exhale out through your mouth for 4. Inhale for 2. Exhale for 4. Inhale for 2. Exhale for 4. Inhale for 2. And exhale for 4. Inhale for 3 this time. And exhale for 6. Inhale for 3. And exhale for 6. And open your eyes. This is one of my absolute favorite breathwork techniques. I'll go back to it just so you can take a look at it. This is a breathwork technique that I started to implement throughout my day, regardless of if I was feeling that overwhelming anxious energy or if I was already in a grounded place, because I wanted to practice breathing. I wanted to practice breathing intentionally. And This can maybe be one of the hardest things on my practice list, because sitting and just paying attention to your breath can feel like you're wasting time, like you're not doing enough, like you should be doing more during this time. But that's the problem. When we're in survival mode and we're feeling anxious and overwhelmed, we're just going in circles and we're not actually doing anything but reigniting the anxiety cycle, the anxiety habit loop over and over and over again. So what we need to do is interrupt that. We need to interrupt that overwhelm, that anxious cyclical thinking, that urge, that uncomfortable energy that arises that can have us go for the cookies, that can have us go for that food that feels like it is going to help soothe us. We want to learn to connect to our breath so that we can take ourselves out of that survival mode, something that we cannot think ourselves out of. We cannot, remember we talked about the primal brain and the executive brain? Well, something I didn't mention was that the prefrontal brain is not going to be able to talk itself out of that primal overactive state. It has to come down in a sensory way. It has to come down through a different way of, looking at it. So we are going to practice breath work to ground ourselves and get out of that fight or flight state and get into what's called a rest and digest and grounded state. Danielle says, I love that this is incorporated. I just realized that I'm holding my breath a lot during this pandemic. Yes, that is something, I'm just going off tangent for a hot second, but when I do my warrior workouts, 22-minute workouts, it is first and foremost so that we can move our bodies and change our physicality and start to breathe deeply, so we can connect with that grounded self and that we can boost our mood and have this chance to feel our best that day. Not to punish ourselves, not to make up for anything, not to burn calories, not to look different, but to feel different. And a big part of that is breath work. We actually end every workout with this type of breathing because I want you guys to leave the workouts grounded and ready for what's next, feeling confident and empowered, and not like you are just like blown around by some invisible force that just feels like you're not really attached to anything, right? That just like flying around sort of feeling that feels really uncomfortable. All right, so I'm going to move on to number 3. I'm really glad that you guys loved the breath work. Yes. Okay, so number 3 is one of the biggest misconceptions that I personally had with what I thought it would take to end this battle with binge eating and this battle with emotional eating, mindless eating, overeating, whatever it is that you're struggling with. And that is the misconception that freedom with food is found through control. That freedom from food is found through restriction around food and weight, especially. So this is a huge part of my 3-step process, and it is certainly one of the most difficult because we are kind of wired to believe that in order to change our body, we need to restrict food and we need to exercise more. And we need to control our weight because if it gets over a certain number, whatever that is for you, or we get to a certain size, then that means we are bad. That means we aren't good enough. That means something is wrong with us. And the same with controlling our food. If we eat over a certain amount of food, or if we eat certain foods, or if we are seen to be enjoying this certain food or that, it's almost like we experience this box that we put ourselves in, where we expect to become free and enjoy ourselves, but meanwhile we are just controlling and creating a smaller and smaller place for us to live. And at the same time, we are shrinking like who we have the potential to be, I guess, for lack of a better term. So this was a huge one. Going back to what I said before about there's a deeper reason for all of this, that is beyond just food and weight. I understand that the weight component can feel extremely urgent and like the biggest thing to take care of first and foremost. But I will say this over and over again, starting there will lead you right back to that dead end, will lead you right back again from the beginning every single time. So learning to let go of restriction, because what you resist persists. Learning to let go of control, trying to control your weight, trying to control the food, and instead embracing freedom and embracing openness and embracing something different is really what this is about. So I know the big question is how, and it is a huge component of my 3-step process, but the biggest thing is, first and foremost, is to get yourself out of survival mode. And this may take only a few weeks, but it can be tough. It can be really, really tough because, like I said, you can't think yourself out of it. You have to learn to release yourself out of it. You have to show yourself that you're safe. That's a big piece of this. Like I said, when we are in survival mode, your brain and your body's main goal is to keep you alive because it feels like it's threatened. And that threat could be completely just in our imaginations, or it could be very real. But first and foremost, knowing that you are safe in this moment is what you need to show yourself over and over. We need to learn to calm our irrational fears, the ones that our anxious mind creates. We need to start to learn to nourish ourselves and let go of restricting ourselves. And then we also need to learn, like I mentioned before, to practice awareness so we can go forward with an objective mindset and learn when we are in that survival mode and we are having thoughts that are driven purely by survival mode versus the real you. The you that is most grounded, that is nourished, that is satisfying what you are craving in all of the ways that your soul needs. Number 4, after we do our breath work and we get our awareness mind in check, asking, what is it that I really need? We mentioned before all of these, some of our triggers, like with the emotions and being tired and feeling like we're not taking a deep breath, we're not connecting. All of this is your body sending you a message that it needs something. We're just misinterpreting it as, I need food. And because we have misinterpreted it over and over and over again, now we've created this really deep path that we just naturally go down because it's what we have done for so long, and we've created this really deep ingrained habit. But taking a moment to step out of that clouded fog on autopilot and asking, what do I really need right now, can open up ways to nourish yourself that you weren't even available for you to see before. So I like to think of this as like my inner child, like my inner little girl throwing a temper tantrum. So that's why I put this picture up. I envision baby Christine crying, upset, frustrated, like she's just feeling all the emotions, whatever it is, but she can't really communicate them exactly. She just knows that she doesn't feel good. She just knows she feels really uncomfortable and something is wrong. And so the way that she has learned to soothe herself and help herself and calm herself and comfort herself is by eating. But she has so many other needs. She has so many other things that she could be craving, that she could need some love and care for. So giving some love to that inner child and asking her kindly, with compassion and empathy, what do I really need right now, can have all of these other things come up that could give you some insight. So this is a mess of pictures, but what these represent to me are, starting from the left, getting out into fresh air and sunshine and nature and connecting, like putting your feet in some dirt kind of a thing. I know that sounds kind of funny, but just getting outside, taking deep breaths in fresh air. How many of you have gone on a hike before, even just like gone on a walk, even over the last few weeks, and you feel so much calmer and relaxed and just like, finally, I feel like I can just get out of my head and get into my body. That. The frogs represent you doing things that you love, like playing a sport or getting outside and moving with a group of people. Maybe you need a hug from someone that you love. Maybe you do actually need a nourishing meal that's filled with nutrients. Maybe you need a good cry. Maybe you need to take a nap. Maybe you just need to dance, or maybe you just need to connect with some other people. Maybe you need alone time. Especially all you moms out there, I know how hard it must be to be taking care of your kids and taking care of yourself amidst this. So having alone time to take care of yourself is so important. And then the last thing is give yourself permission to do all of this badly. Give yourself permission to make a mistake. Dare I say it? So one of my Muay Thai teachers, Muay Thai is a version of kickboxing, and I take class in Manhattan multiple times a week because it makes me feel like a badass, frankly. And one of my Muay Thai instructors is like a sage, and his teaching is always like a life perspective in every class that he teaches, just teaching us to punch and kick things. But he always says, when he teaches us something, do it wrong. Do this movement wrong. Take a step too far, like over punch, turn your body too much. Do it wrong on purpose. Know what it feels like to make a mistake. Learn every time you do it wrong. Every time you make a mistake, what can you learn from it? You'll never know what is right for you unless you learn what is not right for you. Keywords, for you. Because everybody is different, and everybody's right is going to be different than everybody else's. I also like to think of this as getting really curious about yourself, especially when SHIT is hitting the fan, especially when things are going wrong, especially when you feel out of control, when you feel like you've had a binge, like you feel like you've started over again. Get curious about what it is that may have triggered that. Get curious about what it is maybe you really need. It's okay to do it wrong. There's actually so much to learn about ourselves, especially when we do it, quote unquote, wrong. So getting curious about yourself instead of getting judgmental, instead of getting reactive, instead of thinking, oh, I ruined it. It's done. Forget about it. Got to start over. Not true. So is this making sense for you guys? I want to make sure that all of those tips that you came to this workshop for, you understand, that you get. And if you have any questions, type them in the chat and I'm going to get back to it at the end during our Q&A session. But this is the juice, okay? This is something I implement every single day. And it still helps me. Like I said, I still struggle with anxiety, but I manage it and I am able to work with it in a way that I was not able to do before, where I was taking all of my anxiety and using binge eating and food as a coping mechanism. Okay, so just to recap, today you learned what survival mode is and why you're in it. You learn a method to identify triggers and how to interrupt your autopilot with breathing. Now, you can't think yourself out of it. You learn to get curious instead of reactive and to stop restricting and start releasing. And you also learned that you need to do it wrong. Give yourself that room to make mistakes. Let perfectionism go out the window. Please, it's definitely easier said than done, but this is where it's at, you guys. Like, this is no BS. I told you I wasn't going to give you any fluff. I told you that I was going to get real with you on this workshop. This is it, man. Do it wrong so you can learn what doing it right feels like for you. Okay, so listen, I've heard you guys talk. I know you're here today because you want to end your overeating habits and stop feeling like things will never change. That's so like that feeling. I'm just connecting back to that feeling that things will never change and it's just the same thing over and over again. And God, that was, I just want to like go back and give myself a huge hug. You want to stop waking up bloated, swollen, that puffy, swollen feeling, in pain, lethargic. I would feel like my skin was bruised some mornings because I overate so much. Oh my God, and it was just a reminder for the rest of the next day, like what I had done. And I would just feel all that guilt and that shame. And I'd just think to myself, guess I'm starting over again. Guess I'm starting over again. Guess I ruined yesterday. Will I ever overcome this? You're tired of missing out on the amazing moments of this one precious life that we have. Like, if the last 2 months are not a wake-up call to our life is so precious, and the time that we have with the things that are the most important to us are limited. And like, are we wasting time doing things that we think are important but aren't? Are we wasting time doing things that are hurting us and having us sit almost in like a time freeze because we're not able to live and experience those moments fully and completely? I think back to so many months of my 20s where I was sitting inside eating food on my couch, numbing out to the same TV shows over and over and over again. And it was a beautiful day outside and I could not enjoy it. I would not allow myself to enjoy it. I was a prisoner to my own habits. And I just think all of the time that I lost doing that. It's heartbreaking, you guys. But like, you can do something about this. And I feel like from myself, from my clients, it is possible. It is possible. It's your time to fully experience your life without stress and emotional overeating holding you back. It's time to get off the restricting overeating roller coaster. To finally enjoy what life is like without your mind constantly thinking about food, with the guidance of a step-by-step guided program. Guys, we all need support. I even needed support. So nothing I've shared with you today is just a theory. These are all things, like I said, that me and my clients have done to end emotional eating and feel free from food. And listen, I really do not have any advantages. Even though I'm a fitness professional, yes, I'm still a human. I still have my own journey and struggles that I had to overcome to get here, because I feel like what I went through is truly a gift in the fact that now I can relate to people and really connect with them in a way that I wasn't able to before, because I didn't understand what this was, what this felt like, how to get to the other side of it. So if I can do this, so can you. And that's why I created the Warrior Evolution. It's a 12-week step-by-step program to release anxiety, improve mood, and end emotional eating. And it has a bunch of good stuff that I'm about to get into with you. So I want to tell you about my client, Anne, who has been battling overeating for over 15 years. She's also been over-exercising, especially to use movement to make up for her binges, and she has constantly gained and lost weight over the last 15 years. She felt hopeless, had given up on herself so many times in the past with therapy and medications, going to millions of, tons of nutritionists, going on all the diets, any diet from Atkins to keto to low carb to you name it, she did it. Personal trainers, always looking outside of herself for what to do. She never stopped binging throughout that 15 years until she did the Warrior Evolution. The biggest thing that she said she realized was not realizing how much she was betraying her body and herself, and how little self-trust she had with her own relationship with food, herself, and other people. And when she graduated, or since she graduated last year, she has not binged once. My client Samantha was really nervous about doing the Warrior Evolution because she was terrified of gaining weight. She restricted during the day, but binge ate at night. Nighttime eating was a big deal for her. She was afraid to do anything different because although she was gaining and losing weight, it was always in the same 20 pounds. So she felt like she could at least control it. And if she did anything different, she was afraid that she would gain more and more weight. But she was missing days of work. She was skipping out on social events. Her dating life was suffering because she could not stop the nighttime eating binges. By the end of the program, she stopped nighttime eating completely. She didn't have those cravings anymore, and she did not binge or restrict during the day. So in this 12-week program, you are going to get over 12 video lessons talking about some really amazing topics, all from the 3-phase system that I've created. You're going to get over 100 at-home workouts. We do 6 live workouts a week, so you'll have access to join me doing them live, or you can do them on the replays. We have an accountability group called the Warrior Team in Facebook, so you'll be doing this program with like-minded women who are all working on getting out of survivor mode and ending emotional eating. I do weekly live group video calls, so it's basically a group coaching call. We all get on a Zoom call together and I answer your questions. We go through the things that are really holding you back, that you're having a really hard time with. So you're basically getting me coaching you one-on-one every single week. There will be audios included with more breathwork techniques, some that focus on calming you, grounding you, energizing you, focusing you. There will be an audio helping you to create mindfulness around your relationship with food. And there's also going to be accountability through a weekly calendar, and this will all be accessible in this online portal. that you will have a personal login for that you can access every single day. Is updated with new videos and worksheets and everything. So by the end of this 12-week program, the goal is for you to experience that freedom from food. Get out of survival mode, make clear food choices, stop using emotions as a trigger to eat, learn what your body is craving so that you can nourish it with whatever that is through your mouth, through your ears, through your eyes, through your body, whatever. Feel energized, vibrant, clear, peace in your mind and your body, and develop a foundation of moving your body every single day, not to change the way that you look, not to make up for what you ate, but because you feel your absolute best when you do this. You will finally have freedom to enjoy the moments of your life that you have been missing, skipping, not able to be present for without stressing about food. You'll have that mind and body partnership, building trust with yourself. You'll be able to have more free time to do what you love because you're not thinking about food, you're not overeating on food, you're not staying home to binge eat, you're not losing time because you feel sick, and you'll be able to find joy in the little things, and we know those matter the most. So this is the 3-phase program. I'm just going to break it down a little bit for you guys so you understand what the phases are, what happens over the 12 weeks. So this is actually really awesome because you're getting like a sneak peek into it. So phase 1 is release, and it covers the first 4 modules. And this is where we're really addressing getting you out of survival mode. Understanding a little bit more what happens in your brain when we are in this binge mindset, when we're in this survival mode mindset. We'll understand a little bit more about why movement helps us through this, helps us with our like feeling the need to have these urges. It also will help us improve our moods so that we feel strong, capable, and empowered. We'll also talk about building the foundation for you to grow and completely solidify your evolution through this program. We'll talk about grounding and releasing, and we'll talk about how to make this sustainable, which is something that we have all struggled with, how to make something sustainable and maintain it and make it a doable thing versus something that we do just for a short time. So we cover all of that in the first 4 modules. In the second phase, that's where we start to build partnership and you start to create that partnership with your body, your brain. So we talk about what you resist persists. We learn to listen to our body, learn to interpret those urges and hear what our body actually is telling us it needs. And it's also body-brain partnership, rebuilding trust with our trigger foods. That's going to be a big one. And then phase 3 is the empowered phase, and that takes us through the end of the 12 weeks. Just to note, you have more than 12 weeks to do this. You're not like forced to do it in 12 weeks, but everything is laid out over the course of 12 weeks. So this is where we go really deep, going deep to solidify this and make it something that you will never have to address and go back to the beginning for ever again. This is where we will talk about breaking your beliefs around food. We'll get into trauma and the way that we use food to cope with things. And we are going to rewrite your story so that the next evolution of your life looks like what you truly want. And yeah, that is epic. It's actually going to be really awesome. I'm very excited. So if you jump in and enroll today, you're going to get this bonus. It is a quarantine foods habits guide that I wrote. It's about 10 pages long, and it covers a bunch of different tools that you can start applying today. So you'll get that into your email as soon as you sign up. It is free. It's usually about $25. So you'll get that free when you sign up. If you enroll by the end of our time together, you're going to get a free 45-minute call with me, which will allow us to talk personal strategy for how to make this 12-week program the best outcome for you to have the most success. So that's $150 value. And if you sign up by the end of our time today, it's free, and I will contact you today and we'll schedule a time to have that call. So, how to join? You can use the aqua button below this video to enroll. Super simple. So, are you ready to overcome your struggle with overeating? And I'm sure this is a question that you have. So, hiring a personal trainer 2 times a week is about $1,100 a month, okay? It's definitely expensive. Hiring me for one-on-one coaching is $1,300 a month. The question is, what is it costing you to not do anything? I looked up some information on this actually, and an average binge costs about $30, and the average person may overeat about 3 times a week. So if you multiply that 30 times 3 over the course of a month, this habit, this coping mechanism is costing you about $360 a month just from overeating 3 times a week. And if this is something you do over and over and over again, over the course of a year, it is over $4,000 that you are expending on your overeating and binge eating habit. So again, I'd like to invite you to join us now. The total value of this program with everything that I explained before is literally $3,000, from my time to all the modules and the workouts and all the worksheets and the videos and the audios. But today, I'm giving you a special pre-sale price. So usually this program is $697. Today's pre-sale price is $497, and you're saving a ton. So if you pay in full today, you'll get all of that I explained for $497. And if you would like to do a payment plan option, which I totally get because just makes it a little bit easier to break it up per month, it will be $190 per month for 3 months. So it'll be 3 payments of $190. So that works out for the best monthly plan. So I just want to highlight that this is a pre-sale price, and you'll receive access to the first module on Friday, May 15th. So this is a very special offer. I'm not going to do it again after today. So this is literally the lowest price that my program will ever be. And you can have access to it if you jump in today for the $497 pay in full, or if you want to pay $190 today, and then in 30 days you'll pay another $190, and then in another 30 days you'll pay the following $190. But it will save you over $200 to jump in today instead of waiting until the next time I offer this program. So you can join us now. There's the button underneath. It's nice, pretty blue, one of my favorite colors, to enroll. Just some things. So this is the checkout cart. You'll have 2 options for the payment plan. The pay in full are there for you. This offer expires on Monday. So today is Saturday. This offer is going to expire in 2 days. And if you jump in today, you will be able to do that one-on-one phone call with me. You will have immediate access to our Facebook group, which is full of the Warrior team members, and you'll get a ton of support there. So you will have something to kick off with before Friday, May 15th. And I will also send you an email with the quarantine food habits guide, so you'll have that in your hands. And you'll also be able to get your login set up for the workouts, and that's where all of our modules will be and all of our other fun stuff that we post. But you'll have access to the workouts immediately when you sign up for with your login. So again, today is just a special pre-sale price. It is going away in a few days. Sorry, but that's how it works. So you can pay in full today for the $497 or do the payment plan, the $190 today, and then 2 more payments of $190 over the next 2 months. So I know you guys might have some questions. Somebody asked earlier, I never follow through on anything. Will I really be able to stick to this? And I get that. That was my thought pretty much any time I started something. My only things that I have to say to that are, you've never done it with someone who has been there before and knows the way out, and that's me from the professional experience and the personal experience. And also, this program is going to teach you self-integrity. Part of the lesson, part of the work here is building the trust that you will learn to follow through on things that you say you're going to do, and finally end this breaking promises to yourself cycle that you've been on for years and years. Another question is, should I wait until after all this is said and done with, until the world gets out of survival mode? There's so much uncertainty, and I totally understand that. And I just think that the only thing that is certain is that things will change, that there is always uncertainty. And I feel the person that I can count on the most is myself. And if I want that to feel strong, if I want that to feel true, I need to learn to build that trust. I need to learn to build that foundation with myself. And so through this program, you will learn to count on yourself so that you can show up even when the going gets rough, because you've been there before and you're not afraid to face it, frankly. So just one more time, you'll receive access to the first module on Friday, May 15th. So you can pay in full for $497 today, or you can choose the payment method, $190 today, and then in 30 days you pay $190 again, and then in 30 days from that, so it's 3 payments of $190 as the other option. And you have only until Monday to jump into this amazing offer. And if you already know you're in, then you might as well enroll right now before our time together ends, and we will get a free one-on-one call with each other so that I can help you strategize exactly how to make this program everything that you need it to be and be successful in doing it. So you can just click that enroll button. And now I am ready for your questions. So what do you got for me, guys? Give me everything. Give me your best. I'm going to scroll up a little bit to see. There's some questions that I missed. I'm going to go back to full screen. Danielle said it's definitely making sense. I can't write enough of this down. Thank you for the worksheet. Good, I'm glad. If you need the worksheet, also just send me a message and I'll make sure I get that to you. I'm so over the unhealthy cycle and the feelings of just being overall disappointed with myself. That's the worst. It really is exhausting to just go through it over and over again. And you know that you want to stop. And you know, I mean, has anyone had like overeating episodes where they're so upset that they're doing it? They're like, that you feel, I don't want to keep eating, but you cannot stop. Like, I've had just quite frankly times where I am crying because I don't want to be doing this. I don't want to be overeating, binge eating, but I physically cannot stop myself in the moment. It is incredibly distressing. You're in California, does that make a difference at all? No, not at all. I have actually 3 clients that are in California who are doing the Warrior Evolution. And it doesn't matter. Everything is available for you to do and take yourself through on your own time. So it doesn't matter the time of day that you watch the videos or anything. For the live calls, I'm just going to pull everybody in the class to choose the best time that most people are available so that you guys can be on live with me. So that would take into consideration you guys from California. I also have some clients in Ireland and England who are doing the program with us. So they're a few hours ahead. So it doesn't matter where you live. We will make it work no matter what. Yeah. You're welcome, Danielle. The self-integrity thing, I think, is one of the biggest pieces, because when you only have evidence of yourself breaking promises, when you only have just examples of you not being true to yourself, of you breaking those things that you say you're going to do, not following through, then you just have the mind that you're going to repeat it. It's almost like the fear that I'm just going to keep doing this over and over to myself. And it's like what we need to do is create the evidence that you can trust yourself. We need to create those examples that you can go back and say to yourself, I did keep my promise there. I can do it now. Of course! Do I work with middle-aged mamas? Get out of here. I work with, please, it's my specialty. But in all seriousness, the students that take this course are women in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s, all the way through to their late 60s. That's been my most youthful client, has been in her late 60s, and she had struggled with this for over 30 years of her life, and in her late 60s said to me, Christine, I don't want the remaining years of my life to be me stuck inside, depressed, lonely, shoving food into my mouth because I am afraid, because I have been doing this for too long, and whatever years I have left, I don't want them to be feeling sick, feeling swollen, feeling like a failure. I want to live whatever years I have left. And honestly, it brought me to tears when she shared that with me. I know you have more questions. Let me think. So I mentioned you have access. You'll get access immediately to the workouts. You'll have access immediately to the Facebook group. There's going to be a really fun, guys, let me just be real with you. This topic is painful. This topic is effing real. And I do curse, but I just don't curse on lives. I just want to say that. This topic is really hard and is incredibly emotional and incredibly challenging. But at the same time, I want to make this program fun, because when we have fun, when we do things together, when we are supportive and cheering each other on, and we're like having a great time doing it, even though what we're facing is really effing hard, that is where breakthroughs matter. That is where breakthroughs happen. The hardest moments of my life, where I can connect with another human being who has been through it, or who I feel safe enough to share that with them, and then I'm hysterical crying for 5, 10, 25 minutes, and then all of a sudden we're hysterical laughing together, have been some of the most powerful moments of my experience, whether it's been depression, anxiety, struggling with binge eating. There are some stories that I will share with you throughout this program that I hope resonate with you, but if nothing else, give you one hope, one hope that you can do this yourself. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing this for. It doesn't matter how long you've been struggling for. It doesn't matter what has brought you here. It doesn't matter what has started this whole coping mechanism for you. but that no matter how hard that conversation is or no matter how real we get, that we end it hysterical laughing, because what's coming, what we're working towards, is freaking amazing and is life fulfilling, and we just know that doing it together is going to make it that much better. I don't know. I like to create experiences and friendships when I run my programs. So, I mean, there's no other way. We're talking about real stuff. So, thank you. I wanted to do this so badly before I chickened down and did not make myself a priority. Good for you, honestly. I'm hope to that empowered talk, like that empowered verbiage. I wanted to do this so badly. I did not make myself a priority. I can't wait to have you reframe that and say it with like conviction. Say it like, I am a priority. Like, I deserve to put myself first. Because if I don't put myself first, I'm not going to be able to take care of my family, my kids, my work. I'm not going to be able to find what truly matters to me, that makes me come alive. Like, this is real, guys. This is real. All right. I think we may have come to the end of our time together. So I will leave the one-on-one call open. If any of you guys sign up in the next, I guess, like 15, 20 minutes, I'll leave that available as the bonus. And then after the 20 minutes passes, then no more. But you'll still get everything, and you'll get the quarantine food guide. So you have until Monday to fully decide. If you have any questions between now and then, email me. I will get back to you as soon as I can, and I hope you all have an incredible weekend, and I'm really excited to begin on Friday. So I will see you guys soon. Bye. Thanks for coming.